There is a room in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, where the silence doesn't just sit, it breathes. A slow, wet breath, like something drowned trying to remember air. They sealed that room in 1845 with iron nails and prayer. But every night at 3 a.m., the door swings open on its own. Not because something wants out, because something wants you to come in. And once you hear that breathing in the dark, that patient, waiting, unfinished breathing, you will never again believe that locked doors can keep you safe. So tell me, what would you do if a prayer started praying you? My name is Gideon, and I have 17 days left before I walk into the Shenandoah River and keep walking. This is not a ghost story. This is a confession. And if you're listening, if you're hearing my voice, for God's sake, learn from what I'm about to tell you. Some doors don't need to be opened. They've been waiting for you to arrive. In the autumn of 2015, I arrived in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, a town so perfectly preserved it looks like someone painted it and then forgot to let it live. Brick facades, church steeples, the Blue Ridge Mountains rising behind it all like hands folded in prayer. My mother had died that spring. Pancreatic cancer. 6 weeks from diagnosis to a grave that still felt like a lie every time I visited it. I was 24 years old, working construction, and drowning in the silence she left behind. You know that silence? The one that sits in rooms she used to occupy. The one that makes you reach for the phone before remembering. I needed somewhere to hide. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere that felt like healing. Salvation came through Marcus Webb, a fast-talking mechanic from Roanoke who worked the same site. He'd heard about a property outside town, an old Methodist retreat house, converted into apartments after the conference sold it. The church had owned it since the 1880s. Solid brick, leaded windows, original hardwood floors that gleamed like honey poured over wood. The rent was $200 below anything else in the county. The landlord, a Mr. Ellison with a smile that never reached his eyes, showed us around personally. The church likes to keep these properties in good hands, he said, his voice like warm milk going sour. Young men starting out. Steady work. Respectable, the place felt. Held. Not just maintained. Not just preserved. Held. Like someone had pressed pause on it in 1885 and never hit play again. Our third roommate, Daniel Park, was a transplant from California who worked remote and spent his weekends collecting local folklore. He was the one who found the history online. The retreat house, he told us one night, had been built on the site of an earlier structure, a log meeting house used by a breakaway sect in the 1840s. They called themselves the Congregation of the Second Light, believed in visions, in signs, in cleansing. They'd dissolved after their leader, a farmer named Josiah Thorne, walked into the river one winter night and never came out. Church covered it up, Daniel said, scrolling through microfiche archives on his laptop, that weird California enthusiasm in his voice. Called it dementia. But there are letters. Parishioners talking about him, hearing voices. Said the river spoke to him. Told him there was unfinished work. We laughed it off. Old history. Dead men's myths. We didn't know then that some work never finishes. That some prayers never find their amen. That the dead don't always stay dead. Sometimes they just wait. The first sign was the cold. Not the normal chill of an Appalachian autumn. Something else. A cold that had weight. A cold that pressed against you like a hand testing your skin for weakness. It lived in one place, a small storage room off the main hallway that had once been a prayer closet. The door didn't latch properly. It would swing open at odd hours, 3 in the morning, dusk, noon, revealing a space barely 6 feet square, empty except for a single iron hook bolted to the wall. The air there was thick. Breathing it felt like drinking water, like your lungs were filling with something that wasn't quite air. We nailed the door shut after the first week. 3 nights later, Daniel came to my room at 3 a.m. His face wasn't pale. It was gray, the color of something that's been underwater too long. "Gideon," he whispered. "There's someone in that room." I told him it was dreams. Adjustment. Old house settling. He shook his head. His hand was shaking when he grabbed my arm. His fingers were cold. Not room temperature cold. Dead cold. I saw her. Through the crack where the nails pulled loose. She was just standing there, facing the wall. Her hands were moving, like she was praying. But Gideon, her fingers were bending backward, like they didn't have bones. There was no one in the storage room when we checked. The nails held fast. The door was sealed, but the hook on the wall, the iron hook, was warm to the touch. And there was water on the floor. Just a few drops. River water. Smelling of silt and deep places and something else. Something that reminded me of my grandmother's funeral home. The smell of flesh preserved too long. Marcus laughed it off. Said the roof probably leaked. Said old houses did weird things. Said we were letting Daniel's folklore obsession get into our heads. That night, I woke at 2:47 a.m. to the sound of breathing. Not my breathing. Not Marcus's, not Daniel's. Breathing that came from the wall beside my bed. Rhythmic. Wet. Like someone with fluid in their lungs trying to pray. I didn't move. Didn't open my eyes. I lay there, heart hammering, and listened to something breathe through the plaster for 3 full minutes. When it stopped, the silence was worse. Then the sickness began. A cough that started in Marcus's chest and spread to all of us like a slow stain. Low-grade fevers that spiked at midnight and vanished by dawn. Fatigue that felt less like tiredness and more like something had pulled the marrow from our bones and replaced it with cold river silt. I woke one morning with 3 parallel scratches on my forearm. They burned. Not like cuts, like brands. Like someone had pressed hot iron into my skin while I slept. Daniel stopped eating. Said food tasted like river water. Said he could hear singing at night. Women's voices, he said. Old hymns. But the words were wrong. The words were pleading. "Gideon," he said one morning, his eyes too bright, his skin too pale, "do you know what a broocher is?" I didn't. "It's Pennsylvania Dutch. Folk magic. Healing magic. My grandmother was one. She used to say that some sickness isn't in the body, it's in the space around the body. That you can catch things from places the way you catch colds from people." I asked him what he meant. "I think this house is sick. I think it's been sick for 170 years. And I think we're catching it. I should have listened. I should have packed my truck and driven until the mountains were a memory. Instead, I went to work. I came home. I pretended the scratches on my arm were from dry skin. I pretended the breathing in the walls was pipes settling. I pretended that the woman I sometimes saw from the corner of my eye, just a shape, just a suggestion, standing in the doorway of that sealed room, was a trick of peripheral vision. We were not being haunted by specters. We were being absorbed. The apartment had 4 wall sconces in the main living area. 3 worked perfectly. The 4th, the one closest to that sealed storage room, was dead. The switch clicked, but nothing happened. Old wiring, we thought. Old house. One night, after a bottle of bourbon and too much silence, Marcus pointed a shaking finger at that dark corner. "She's standing right there," he breathed. His voice wasn't his voice anymore. It was thinner, higher, like someone trying to speak through him. "She's been standing there for an hour. Just watching. Her hands won't stop moving, Gideon." Why won't her hands stop moving? Something in me snapped. Maybe it was the grief I'd been carrying, like a stone in my chest. Maybe it was the fever. Maybe it was the desperation of 3 young men pretending they weren't terrified in their own home. Maybe it was her, Eliza, pushing at the edges of my mind, testing to see if I was ready. I stood up. I walked toward that corner. I screamed into the darkness. "If you're here, show yourself. This is our home. You don't belong here." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. I could hear Marcus's breathing. I could hear Daniel whispering something under his breath, a prayer maybe, or a plea. Then, a soft, definitive click. The dead sconce blazed to life. The light it cast was wrong. Yellow. Jaundiced. The color of old photographs of dead children. The color of illness. The color of something that should never be illuminated. And in that light, for just a fraction of a second, I saw her. A woman. Tall. Her back to us. Her hands raised toward the wall. Her fingers moving in patterns that made my eyes water to look at. Patterns that my brain couldn't process because human fingers don't bend that way. Human fingers don't make those shapes. Then she began to turn. Not fast. Not slow. Just turning. Like she had all the time in the world. Like she'd been waiting 170 years to face us, and a few more seconds didn't matter. The bulb shattered before I could see her face, and the darkness that rushed in was hungry. I ran. Spent the night in my truck at a rest stop off Route 340, shivering under a jacket that wasn't warm enough. I didn't sleep. I didn't close my eyes. I just sat there, watching the rearview mirror, waiting for something to appear in the glass. Waiting for her. The next morning, a woman from town came to see us. Margaret Shea. Old family. Her grandmother had been a healer, a broacher, like Daniel said. The kind of woman who knows things about this valley that aren't written down. The kind of woman who understands that some places remember. She didn't knock. She walked to our door, pressed her palm to the wood, and went white as chalk. Whiter. The color of bone. "There's a sacrament here," she whispered. Her voice shook. This woman who'd probably seen everything, who'd grown up with mountain magic and mountain horror, she was afraid. A broken one. It's not finished. It's been waiting. It's been waiting for someone to hear it, someone to complete it, for 170 years. You need to leave. Today. Don't take anything that belonged to the house. Don't take anything that touched the walls. Just go. I asked her what she meant. What sacrament? What was waiting? She shook her head. Wouldn't say more. Just backed away from the door, like it might reach out and grab her. Like the house itself was a living thing that could pull her inside. Some prayers, she said, are not pleas. They're invitations. And this one has been inviting the wrong thing for a very long time. We stayed. Pride. Poverty. The stubborn refusal of young men to admit they were afraid. The feeling, deep in my chest, that something was pulling me back every time I thought about leaving. That same pull you feel when you're standing on a bridge, looking down at dark water, and some part of you, some small dark part, wonders what it would feel like to jump. I know now what that pull was. It was her. The end began on a Tuesday. Marcus had been acting strange for days, talking to himself, laughing at nothing. Sometimes I'd find him standing in front of that sealed door, his ear pressed to the wood, nodding along to something only he could hear. "Marcus," I'd say. "Marcus, come away from there." He'd turn to me with eyes that didn't quite focus. "She's telling me about the river, Gideon. About how cold it is. About how long she's been waiting. She says she can see light through the water. She says we're the light." Then, around midnight that Tuesday, he started screaming. Not a scream of fear. A scream of pain. The kind of sound an animal makes when something has it and won't let go. We found him in the hallway, pressed against the wall opposite the storage room. His eyes were rolled back. His mouth was open so wide I thought his jaw would break. And his hands were moving, making those same patterns. Those impossible patterns. "She's in me," he gasped. His voice wasn't his voice anymore. It was higher, thinner. A woman's voice using his throat. "She's in my blood. I can feel her praying inside my chest. I can feel her fingers. Gideon, she's reaching for something inside me." Daniel tried to pull him away. Marcus's skin was burning, fever hot, and beneath his shirt on his chest we could see something moving, shifting, like fingers pressing outward from within, like someone trapped inside him trying to find a way out. We got him to the hospital. They said it was pneumonia, delirium from fever. They gave him antibiotics. They sedated him. They told us he'd be fine. They didn't see what we saw. 3 days later, Marcus was transferred to a psychiatric facility in Charlottesville. He hasn't spoken a coherent sentence since. Just whispers. Just prayers. Just a woman's name, repeated over and over, in that same thin, high voice that wasn't his. "Eliza. Eliza. Eliza. Forgive me. Let me save you. Let me wash you clean." Daniel lasted another week. He started spending hours in front of the storage room door, not trying to open it, just listening, pressing his ear to the wood, nodding along to something only he could hear. Sometimes I'd catch him moving his hands in those patterns. Sometimes I'd hear him whispering in a language I didn't recognize. "Daniel," I'd say. "Daniel, please. Come away from there." He'd smile at me. But it wasn't his smile. It was too wide, too knowing, too full of something that looked like pity. "Gideon," he said one night, his voice flat and dreamy, "she wants to finish it. She was in the river for so long. So cold. So alone." He held her down, you know. In that room. Pressed a cloth over her face and held her down until she stopped moving. He thought he was saving her. He thought he was driving out the demon. But she wasn't possessed, Gideon. She was just a woman. Just a woman who looked at him wrong, who made him feel things he didn't want to feel. So he drowned her. In the name of God, he drowned her. I tried to reason with him. Tried to pull him away. He turned on me with such sudden violence that I fell backward into the kitchen table. His eyes, Daniel's kind, curious eyes, were black. Not dark. Black. Like someone had filled them with river water. "Don't you understand?" he hissed. His voice was changing now, becoming that same thin, high voice that had come out of Marcus. "She's not a ghost. She's unfinished. He drowned her, but she just kept praying, kept waiting. For 170 years, she's been waiting for someone to hear her, to answer her, to complete the sacrament. And now she's found us. Now she's found me. The next morning, Daniel was gone. His car was still in the driveway. His phone was on the kitchen counter. His wallet was on his bed. But Daniel, the Daniel I knew, had vanished. 3 weeks later, they found his body in the Shenandoah River, downstream from the old meeting house site. The coroner said drowning. Said there was river weed in his lungs. Said it looked like he just walked in. Kept walking until the water took him. They found his hands first. They were still moving, still making those patterns. Even in death, his fingers kept praying. I was alone then. I should have left. God knows I should have left. But something held me there. Some thread I couldn't name. Some pull. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the same sickness that had taken my roommates, working its way into my bones. Maybe it was her, Eliza, reaching for me across 170 years of dark water, finally close enough to touch. I started researching. Archives. Historical societies. Old newspapers on microfilm. The library at Shepherd University. I became obsessed with finding the truth, as if the truth could save me, as if understanding would set me free. Josiah Thorne, the leader of the Congregation of the Second Light, hadn't just walked into the river. He'd walked in with someone, a woman from his congregation, a young widow named Eliza March. She'd come to him for counsel after her husband died, for comfort, for something more. The church records were vague. The letters were careful. But the truth was there between the lines, in the spaces where they'd scratched out words and written others over them. Josiah had become obsessed with her. Believed her beauty was a test from Satan. Believed her grief was a mask for sin. Believed he had to purify her, to wash away the desire he saw in her face, her voice, her very presence. Because the only way a holy man could explain wanting a woman was to convince himself she was the devil's work. One night in that same prayer closet where we'd felt the cold, that same small room with the iron hook on the wall, he'd tried to exorcise her, to drive out the demon he saw in her eyes. He'd held her down, pressed a cloth over her mouth and nose, drowned her slowly in the name of salvation. Then he'd carried her body to the river, walked in with her in his arms, and kept walking. The church called it a tragedy, a lapse, a good man broken by visions. They never mentioned the screams the neighbors heard, never mentioned the bruises on her arms, never mentioned that Eliza March had tried to leave the congregation 3 times, and 3 times Josiah had brought her back. They sealed the prayer closet, sold the property, let the river keep its secrets, until we arrived, until we opened a door that should have stayed nailed shut forever. The truth came to me in fragments after that. Dreams where I stood in dark water, watching a woman's body float past. Dreams where she opened her eyes underwater and looked at me with something that wasn't accusation, it was recognition. Like she'd been waiting for me specifically. Like she'd known I was coming before I was born. Moments of waking to find myself standing in front of the storage room, my hand on the latch, my mouth forming words I didn't recognize. Eliza, Eliza, forgive me. Let me finish. Let me save you. I called Marcus's family. He was still in the hospital, still whispering, still praying to a woman whose name he'd never known before that house. They said he didn't eat anymore, didn't sleep, just lay in bed, moving his fingers in patterns, whispering about the river. I called Daniel's parents, told them I was sorry, told them I should have stopped him. There was a long silence on the phone. Then Daniel's mother spoke. Her voice was flat, hollow, like someone who'd already cried everything out. He talked about you, she said, in his last days, before he went to the river. He left a message. He made me promise to tell you. What did he say? Another silence. When she spoke again, her voice broke. Tell Gideon she's waiting for him. Tell him it's not finished. Tell him she needs one more. Tell him the sacrament requires 3. I hung up. I packed my truck. I drove. But I didn't drive away. I drove back. One last time. The apartment was exactly as we'd left it. Marcus's jacket hung by the door. Daniel's laptop sat on the coffee table, screen dark. The smell of them, their coffee, their soap, their living was already fading, being replaced by something else. Something that smelled like river silt and old flowers and older prayers. The storage room door stood open, wide open. The nails scattered on the floor like someone had pulled them out from inside. The cold hit me like a wall. Not cold. Presence. The weight of 170 years of waiting, of praying, of unfinished business pressing against the walls of time. The air was thick with it. Breathing felt like drowning. I walked to the doorway. I looked inside. She was there, not standing, kneeling, facing the wall, her hands clasped, her body swaying slightly as she whispered words I couldn't understand. She wore a white dress, no, a shroud. Wet. River wet. Dripping onto the floor in a rhythm that matched my heartbeat. Drip. 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 The sound of water falling in a room that should have been dry for 170 years. I tried to speak, tried to pray, tried to run. My body wouldn't move. She turned. Her face was not a face. It was a prayer. Features smoothed away by decades underwater, replaced by something that looked like devotion carved into stone. Her eyes, if they were eyes, fixed on me with an attention so complete I felt my soul fold under it. Like a garment being prepared for storage. Like something being made ready. You came back, she whispered. Her voice was river water over stones. It was the sound of drowning. It was Daniel's voice. It was Marcus's voice. It was my mother's voice saying my name one last time from her hospital bed. You came back to finish it. I shook my head. Or tried to. I don't know if I succeeded. I'm not him. I'm not Josiah. I didn't hurt you, no, she said. And she smiled. Her mouth opened too wide. Wider than a mouth should open. And inside it, there was only darkness. Only water. Only the deep, cold places where the light never reaches. But you'll do, she reached for me. Her fingers, cold, wet, impossibly long, touched my chest. Right over my heart. And I felt it. The prayer. The endless, drowning prayer she'd been whispering for 170 years. Flowing into me like river water. Like faith. Like something that had been waiting for a vessel to fill. Eliza. Eliza. Forgive me. Let me save you. Let me wash you clean. Let me finish what I started. Let me complete the sacrament. Let me bring you home. I screamed. I don't know how I got out. I don't remember driving. I only remember waking up in my truck at a rest stop hours away, my chest burning where she touched me. I stripped off my shirt. There, over my heart, was a mark. Not a scratch. Not a brand. A pattern. Fingers. Pressed into my skin like clay. Like she'd reached inside me and left her handprint on my soul. That was 3 months ago. I moved to Ohio after that. Changed my name. Found a job in a warehouse where no one asks questions. I go to church every Sunday now, though I don't know why. I light candles for the dead. I pray for Eliza March, even though I know she's beyond prayer. Even though I know she's inside me now. I thought for a time that I'd escaped. But last week, I woke to find water on my bedroom floor. A trail of it. Leading from the bathroom to my bed. And at the foot of my mattress, a single piece of river weed. Still wet. Still cold. Still moving, just slightly, like something breathing underwater. The night after that, I dreamed of the river. Of standing in it, waist deep, while the current pulled at my clothes. And in the dream, she was there. Beside me. Holding my hand. Her fingers cold and wet and impossibly long, intertwined with mine. "You carry my prayer now," she whispered. "You carry my waiting. My unfinished work," I tried to pull away. I couldn't. "Don't worry," she said. "It won't be long now. The river calls us both. And when it does, you'll understand. You'll understand why he did it. Why he had to wash me clean. You'll understand that some prayers need 3 voices to be complete. Marcus gave me one. Daniel gave me another. And you'll give me the last." I asked her how long. She smiled that smile again. That too wide, too dark smile. 17 days. When the moon is full and the river is high. You'll come to me, Gideon. You'll walk into the water, and you'll keep walking, and you'll understand that this is not death. This is completion. This is the sacrament, finally finished. I woke up screaming. My chest burns as I record this. The mark of her fingers is darker today than it was yesterday. It spreads a little more each morning. And I can feel it, the prayer. Her prayer. Moving inside me like a living thing. Learning my rhythms. Learning my name. Learning the shape of my soul so it can fill me completely. I've done the math. Marcus lasted 3 weeks after she first touched him. Daniel lasted 2. I've already passed 3 weeks. Which means I'm running on borrowed time. Which means she's saving me for something special. I am the 3rd. I am the completion. I am the final voice in a prayer that has waited 170 years for its amen. I don't know how much time I have. I don't know if anyone will find this recording. I don't know if anyone will believe me. But if you're listening, if you're hearing my voice, please understand. Some places are not haunted by the dead. They are haunted by the unfinished. By sacraments that curdled into sin. By love that twisted into possession. By prayers that never stopped, never rested, never found their end. By women who were drowned in the name of God and kept praying anyway. And if you ever feel the cold press of something that believes it's saving you, if you ever hear a woman praying in a language older than words, if you ever stand at the edge of a river and feel it pull, run. Don't look back. Don't wonder what might have been. Don't let curiosity or grief or loneliness make you vulnerable. Because some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. And some congregations are waiting, have always been waiting, for one more soul to complete their number. My name is Gideon. And tonight, I can hear the river. Even here. Even in Ohio, miles from any water, in an apartment that's never seen the Shenandoah. I can hear it. I can hear her. She's singing now. An old hymn. The one they sang at my mother's funeral. The one about being washed clean. About being made whole. About crossing over into a place where there is no more sorrow. She's singing it in my mother's voice. And somewhere in this apartment, in the walls, in the floors, in the dark corners where the light doesn't reach, I can hear water dripping. Drip, drip, drip. 17 days until the moon is full. 17 days until the river rises. 17 days until I walk into the water and keep walking. And when I do, I'll understand. I'll understand why he did it. I'll understand why she needs me. I'll understand that some prayers aren't pleas, they're promises. And some promises can't be broken, even by death. The sacrament is not complete, brother. But soon you'll be clean. Soon you'll be mine. Soon we'll all be together. Marcus, Daniel, you, me. One congregation, one prayer, one endless holy amen. This is the story of the retreat house on Harpers Ferry Road. It is not a ghost story. It is a desecration. The most profound evil does not announce itself with screams. It whispers. It prays. It waits in dark water for 170 years, patient as faith, certain as a hymn, until someone, some broken, grieving soul, opens the door it's been pressing against since before they were born. Eliza March was a victim. Josiah Thorne was a monster. But what they became together, that endless, unfinished covenant, is something else entirely. It is a prayer that forgot how to end. A sacrament that curdled into sacrilege. So listen closely. If you are ever offered a sanctuary that feels too peaceful, too preserved, if you ever feel a cold that settles not in your bones, but in your soul, if you ever hear a woman praying in a room that should be empty, run. Some places are not haunted by what was lost. They are haunted by what was corrupted beyond all recognition. And some prayers are not pleas. They are invitations. If you have a story that haunts you, send it to contacts.thedreadcodex@gmail.com. Your truth becomes our tale. Your likes and comments keep these stories alive. Until next time, may your path be lit. May your faith be your own. And if you hear the river calling, for God's sake, don't answer. Good night.